Hey, welcome to Film versus Movie, the podcast where we debate the cinema you hate. I'm your co-host, Belton DeLaine-Facey.
And my name is Chris Shurr.
And on this podcast, we watch the films that have been slandered, desecrated, and given syphilis from the mouth of public opinion. And one of us tells you why it's actually pretty good.
And that'll be me today. And one of us is going to say why it's a hot piece of garbage.
And that'll be me. And today, for the first time, we're talking about not one, why stop at two? We're covering an entire trilogy, and that trilogy is The Kissing Booth.
The Kissing Booth.
And so, Chris, would you like to talk about the trilogy we're going to be discussing?
Like the whole plot?
I mean, I can go through the whole plot.
All right, you want me just to give like bare bones kind of what's going on in this movie? All right. So The Kissing Booth is about two high schoolers. One's named Elle and the other one is named Lee. They're best friends, born at the exact same minute, same hospital. They grew up together. They end up in high school. They're on a dance team. No, they're a dance club. They do a dance club.
The dance club where the only dancing we see of them is Dance Dance Revolution.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we got to make money for the dance club, but not once for they're like, oh shit, I got to go to dance club. It's just like, let's go dance at the pier. I think they were laundering the money to pay for like snacks at the pier.
I mean that would be pretty smart actually.
Yeah.
Just like start a club where you don't need faculty supervisors.
Okay, back to so Lee has a brother named Noah, and he's all like brooding and handsome. 1 year older. Elle ends up going into junior year of high school. She keeps having all these weird interactions with Noah. Her and Lee decide to set up a kissing booth to raise money for the dance club. They set up the kissing booth, they kiss, and then there's just like a bunch of romantic drama going on. And that, I mean, do you want me to go plot by plot?
I mean, that kind of like gives enough an idea of the movie. The trilogy is kind of just romantic drama. It's a high school rom-com. Just drama between Elle, Lee, and Noah. The movies are actually based on a book series that was written by Beth Reekles. Now, Beth Reekles published the first Kissing Booth first Kissing Booth novel, chapter by chapter, when she was 15 on Wattpad, which, if you've never heard of it, it's a site most popular for fan fiction.
Yep.
It got really big on the site. In 2011, she got the award for Wattpad's most popular teen fiction. And so then at the age of 17, she got a 3-book publishing deal, which is very impressive. In 2013, she was actually on Time's list of the 16 most influential teens, which, for reference, on that list, she was 1 spot behind Justin Bieber.
Really?
Yeah.
Was like Malala on that list too?
Malala, I believe she was number 1, which is like that is where Malala should go.
Okay.
But it's crazy because like the 2 spots behind her were Chloe Grace Moretz and Haley Steinfeld, which at this point Haley Steinfeld had already been nominated for an Oscar.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So she did really well with the book series. She's since written more young adult and some adult novels, including the other 2 books in the trilogy. And so Netflix bought the rights for a movie in 2016, and all the films were written and directed by Vincent Marcello, who he seems to specialize in teen and young adult content. He wrote the Teen Beach movies, which are Disney Channel original movies, and he also directed the Nickelodeon TV movie Liar Liar Vampire. The first movie was filmed in 2018, and just a weird thing, a lot of it was filmed in Cape Town, South Africa. I couldn't find a reason why they did it.
I mean, it was cost. It's gotta be cost.
I have to assume it's some cost weird tax thing. But basically, if you watch the movies and they're in a location that isn't distinctly in LA, like the Hollywood sign or Santa Monica Pier, it was most likely filmed in South Africa. And including the school. The school was actually the University of Cape Town, and their homes were just this wealthy neighborhood of Cape Town, and the day festival where the titular kissing booth takes place is actually at Ratanga Junction, which was an amusement park that closed 10 days before the first film release. So they just couldn't even capitalize on the fame.
Okay, I've got a weird question. So in the second movie they end up going to an amusement park. Is that the same park?
I couldn't find if it was same park. I mean, so the park was essentially turned into development. So I have to assume it's a different location. They just got it close enough. The first film was a big hit for Netflix. There's various quotes of Netflix CEO talking about how big it is. He claimed a third of the people that watched it rewatched it, which is higher than the average. At some point, it seems like he claimed it was their most watched Netflix original film.
Really?
Yeah,
I rewatched it, so I'm just adding to those stats.
I know. I know. Yeah, that's the thing about this podcast. Like, there's got to be someone who just looks at the numbers and it's just like, oh, we got 2 more views for Titanic 2 this week.
I had to watch Titanic 2 3 times, all with ads. So like, I wasn't like, that movie's what, like 75 minutes?
Yeah.
So I had to watch the full hour and 45 production, including ads, just to like write one little humdinger about icebergs.
Dick Van Dyke's grandson just got excited when he saw the deposit that you're responsible for. Soon after, sequels were planned, but at the time of announcing the sequels, there were not sequels to the book. The 2 sequels were actually filmed at the same time alongside each other, and their respective books were released the same year they came out. The Kissing Booth 3, actually the book and film came out at the same time. So where the first Kissing Booth was definitely based on an actual book, 2 and 3 were probably like the later season of Game of Thrones, where they were just working off of an outline the author already had.
So was she gonna write a second and third book originally, or was it like the movies did so well that we're just gonna pump out like a second and third book?
I mean, I couldn't find anything about her talking about that. I would say it's likely that she just wrote it as part of a deal, because in between writing Kissing Booth 1 and 2, she wrote 2 other books. It's very unlikely that she was planning on writing a full trilogy and just had an 8-year gap in between 1 and 2, and then 2 and 3 come out in consecutive years.
Makes sense. You think she was writing more adult books? I just wish she had written like almost the same exact book, but it was just called The Glory Hole and it was set in college. It's like, you find love at the glory hole, and it's just like a lot grosser, but there's still people cheering on.
I was about to say I don't think the actors would sign off for that, but no, it's played by Jacob Elordi, who is on Euphoria. So I feel like that is now in his wheelhouse.
Oh, I wasn't thinking the same actor. I'm saying if it's called The Glory Hole, they've got to be like crustier. They got to be some crusty people finding love at the glory hole. It can't be Joey King finding 19-year-old love at college at the glory hole. It's got to be like Patricia Jones, a prostitute at the glory hole, meets like a down on his luck banker.
I feel like I imagine someone at Netflix would pitch that, and then it goes from Netflix production and just slowly turns into the highest budget porn movie you've ever seen.
Dude, I've watched that.
Just porn stars on set. Like, I am not used to seeing this many gaffers. Book 1, you kind of summed up most of it. I would just add at the kissing booth, Lee also meets Rachel. They start dating, and basically after the kissing booth, Elle and Noah start going out behind Lee's back. They gotta keep it a secret because it violates one of their friendship rules that are just written down.
I forgot to mention they have these 34 rules, and they're all crazy, and they try to live by them. And it's like, honestly, one of the fact that the plot, all three movies, the plot revolves around them breaking a rule.
Yeah, no, and you want to know the crazy part? All these rules were not in the book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they created them for the movie. The biggest reason I could find is it just makes a very shorthand, concrete reason for Lee to not want Noah and Elle to date.
Makes sense. I also think it's kind of like, it's sort of like the recap at the beginning. Every movie starts with a like, here's what's been going on in my life, which on the first movie, I watched it again this morning, and it's so jarring because she'll be like, me and Lee were born at the same time. We grew up together. We love dancing. And then I found out my mom was sick. And then we found out we could take the bus to the pier. In between times when my mom was in the hospital, I would only cry when she fell asleep. And you're like, it's like she's like my second family, only because my mom died of the cancer. It was very sad. And it's just going really hard back and forth. And then it just cuts to like happy-go-lucky Elle going to school for the first day.
I mean, I think the montage is definitely a thing in a lot of team movies. I think like as far as getting that information out, like I could see why they wanted to just contrast the tones. But back to the first movie. So eventually Lee finds out, he gets mad, and I guess Noah got mad, Lee got mad, and they broke up briefly, but then after prom they got back together and they spend summer together before Noah goes off to Harvard.
Yep.
And now Kissing Booth 2, Lee and Elle are starting senior year. They both agree to apply at Berkeley because that's where their moms became best friends. But Noah convinces Elle to apply at Harvard, and they're doing a long distance relationship. Elle's getting jealous of his new friend Chloe. Meanwhile, Lee and Rachel are having tension because Elle's just always there and Rachel's the third wheel. Lee tells Rachel he told Elle that like they set a boundary when he really didn't. But Elle needs money for college, so they enter a Dance Revolution competition. Lee fakes an injury so that she has to start competing with Marco, who's this new kid at school that everyone just finds hot.
Well, dude, Marco fucking rocks. He is the only likable character out of all of them.
Yeah. Marco and Lee spend a lot of time together with Dance Revolution, and they build a strong connection. And just for reference on what Marco looks like, I'm pretty sure the casting call just said Henry Cavill's Latino son.
Yeah.
Like that's what he looks like. I imagine the director said an offhand comment, and the casting director took him way too seriously. But anyway, while visiting Noah, Elle found Chloe's earring in her room, so she's mad. Rachel, yeah, Elle and Marco win the Dance Revolution contest, and in the moment, Elle kisses Marco, not realizing Noah's in the audience. So at Thanksgiving, everything blows up because Elle's mad at Noah because she thinks he cheated. Noah's mad at Elle because she made out with Marco. Lee's mad at Elle because he found out she applied to Harvard. And
Rachel hates Elle because she thinks that Lee told Elle to back off a little bit and give him some space for their relationship, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And so she thinks that Elle's like a psychopath who's just like won't leave them alone even though she's told the boundary. But in reality, Elle's just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, and then the truth of that comes out at the Thanksgiving dinner. So then Elle and Rachel are both mad at Lee over that. Like, this isn't even a hate triangle. I think if we drew it out, it's a hate constellation.
Okay, and then also to add to this, at the dinner, you have Elle's dad, Lee and Flynn's mom and dad, or the Flynn parents, and then Elle's younger brother, who are just like,
yeah,
they're like, look, you're the main characters of your school. Can you not take your shit into Thanksgiving? Where it's like, goddamn, man.
Yeah, like, yeah, that's one thing. Like, everyone else is just a bystander to them in these movies. But like, to wrap up Kissing Booth, two at the Kissing Booth that they plan again this year, Lee and Rachel get back together. Marco and Elle acknowledge feelings for each other, but Elle rejects him, and she and Noah chase after each other, get back together. So,
that's when they do the airport chase.
Yeah, the airport chase, which is completely impossible in a post 9/11 world. Like,
well, you could just buy like a one-way ticket to like Retford, New Jersey.
I mean, we just watched her like practice Dance Revolution for hours and days for money. Do you think she could just suddenly drop money for a ticket?
I mean, she won $50,000. I don't know.
I would like to think she also split that with Marco.
I don't believe for a second that she split it with Marco. I think she fucked over, because like, I think she just fucked over Marco that entire time. I feel like Marco got so, that's like my biggest complaint about the movie, is that like Noah's pretty boring when he's not fighting people. He's the whole time he's just kind of, you're like, dude, I thought you were like kind of cool, but you're just sort of like whiny and all over the place.
Like, Noah is the type of dude where I feel if he made a Tinder profile, it would be 9 words long, and 3 of those words would be his height.
Yep. You'd have a holding a fish picture, motorcycle picture, and those would be the 2 pictures.
Yep. All right. And now on to Kissing Booth 3. It is the summer after Elle, Lee, and Rachel graduate high school, and them and Noah are staying at Lee and Noah's family beach house for the summer. Elle picks Harvard over Berkeley, which upset Lee. So they decide to spend the summer doing this beach bucket list they made when they were kids. And like, I do have to say the bucket list items like seem very on brand for the movie, and also one of the more fun sequences.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah. They could have made it like really bad and corny, which they did a little bit, but like the Mario Kart was fun. The Flash dance, like I'm not a big Flash mob person, but like that was pretty good.
Yeah, and so at Elle's summer job, Marco shows up, and he actually helps them with the Mario Kart thing, which Noah didn't want to get involved then, but he does just because he doesn't like Marco. So they get in a spat. He tells Elle she's being naive for not thinking Marco's still into her. Elle struggles to balance time between Lee, Noah, and accepting her dad's new girlfriend.
Yeah, that was kind of thrown in there in a way that made zero sense at all.
Yeah, like, because also she wasn't spending a lot of time with that with her family at all.
And I mean, she's leaving for school in like 2 months, literally 2 months, and she won't be living in the house anymore. And also, it's not like at any point she ever brought up her dad dating. She like barely brings up her dead mom. It's just like real, you're like, oh, you have a problem with that? Why?
Yeah. And so later at a beach party, Marco punches Noah and acknowledges he's been trying to get back with Elle. And then Noah dumps Elle because he fears she's picking Harvard just to be with him.
There's truth to that.
Yeah, which I mean, that was also his entire pitch for Harvard, which it's weird. You're going to pitch Harvard and not even mention academics.
Yeah, they didn't bring it. They're like, he's like, oh yeah, Harvard's a really good school, a lot of connections. They're just like, I'm there.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And so because of also because of that conversation where he dumped her, she misses a major beachless item. It was like the last time they could play the Dance Dance Revolution machine at the arcade. So that upsets Lee. Rachel dumped Lee because she's afraid of long distance or something, and then Elle this self reflects and decides to go to USC art school for game design, and then it cuts to 6 years later. Everyone's out of school. Rachel and Lee are engaged. Elle and Noah have a conversation where it's like they don't get back together, but kind of leave that door open, and that's where the trilogy ends.
They ride off on motorcycles together, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Because she has her own now.
Okay, yeah, that was like one weird part of the movie. Is in the first movie, she takes Noah to the airport for him to go to Harvard, and then just leaves on his motorcycle, and then that's just her motorcycle for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, but now it's time for our opening statements.
You're gonna say the kissing booth is corny and it doesn't make a lot of sense and the plot lines are weird, but what I'm gonna say, it's a movie about a teen girl written by a teen girl for an audience of teenage girls. It's a teenage girl's fantasy from top to bottom. Being pursued by the physically aggressive, brooding older brother seems terrible to adults, but teenage girls will eat that shit up. That's the intended audience. We watch it as an adult and we're just like, I don't really know if this makes that much sense, but like, oh, like a 15-year-old girl's like, oh my God, like, I could change him. I could change him. So that's what the movie's good at. It's bringing in that audience. And then for everyone else, it's a fun movie. Like it's enjoyable. You watch it. You're like, oh, that was like a nice way to spend an hour and 45 minutes. It was a good movie.
All right. My opening statement, keeping in mind that it's intended for teen girls. I know we're not supposed to use phrases like not like other girls, but I would say if you know a teenage girl and she watched these films, you should specify, don't be like that girl. Because this series revolves around codependent relationships that highlight the codependency, but with little acknowledge to how problematic they are. It constantly flips between how realistic it wants to be, and the films talk down to their audience by treating them like they lack focus. It's as if the director saw that kids were always on TikTok before TikTok blew up.
Yeah, he did a good job. He managed to keep my attention, and it's bright and it's fast.
I mean, with the pacing, so the thought I have while watching the film is every time there's a book to film adaptation, the fans of the book always will complain about plot lines from the book that got cut for the movie. That happens every time. I feel like at the very least the first movie is a great example of why sometimes you need to cut those plot lines, because it very much tried to balance everything but left no time to breathe or reflect to make any of it meaningful.
Yeah, I kind of think that a part of that is like that's sort of like how teenage girls operate to a certain extent. And I've just got to like preface by saying this. I don't really interact with teenage girls very often, but in my head, it's just kind of like you make giant deals out of small things and you focus on things and you kind of jump between them. And there might be like one big thing that's going on in their lives, but it's not going to be some grand overarching thing. You're going to be like, oh no, prom. Oh no, colleges. Oh no, this. Oh no, that. And one might actually come to fruition. But then the rest you just kind of forget about, because that's what I was like when I was 16.
Yeah. I mean, before I continue, I would also like to specify I also don't hang out with teenage girls.
A lot of my argument is like, this is what teenage girls are like, and then I'm just like, this really makes it seem like I only hang out with like 17 and 18-year-old girls, and I don't do that at all.
Yeah,
So
I want to specify anytime I reference like I think this is what teenage girls are like. I'm thinking back to when I was in high school and I was then friends with teenage girls. I don't know any now. But to that point, like I think I would like buy all sporadic plot points if they actually came together. But there are things like the OMG and G's. They were like in the first movie. They were very prominent in the first half, and then they completely disappeared.
But they weren't necessarily a plot point. They were more of just like a side character.
Well,
They didn't have very much involvement in the story other than being like, "Oh shit, Elle, did you see that Noah has a big muscly arm?" And she's like, "Yeah, I know about the big muscly arm." And then she like goes and interacts with Noah and she's like, "Oh yeah, you got a real big muscly arm right there." Like they're instigators to drama. They give her drinks at the party and force her to go talk to Noah. They say that they're only going to do the kissing booth if Noah does the kissing booth. So that forces her to get more involved. They're kind of like the biggest driving factor of Elle and Noah getting together. But I don't think they're necessarily plot points. They're almost like devices to push them in that direction.
Yeah, but they're devices that get dropped because like at the beginning of the movie, they very much insert themselves as like we are now Elle's friends, and then they just don't spend any time with her for the second half of the movie.
Oh, I didn't take it as them being like, we're actually, I kind of always took it as like a mean girl thing where they're like, Elle, you're a friend, drink at this party, embarrass yourself, it'll be funny. Kind of like they might not have been like directly trying to humiliate her, but they're just it's like she was their kind of like plaything that they could fuck with to a certain extent.
Yeah, but then like if they were just fucking with her, that also makes them like a really good antagonist or obstacle that like I'm sure there's a place they could have been in the second half of that movie, especially within as like because Elle and Noah are trying to keep it a secret. They easily could have just found out and play with that.
That's very fair. They could have done that. But also they kind of were defeated. They were defeated when originally they were going to get Elle to kiss the little nerdy boy who looks like he smells. And then they blindfold her and send her out there telling him, I forget what they told her, but then Noah swaps in and that's kind of their defeat, in my opinion. That's when like Elle was on their level. Like she ended up winning their little sparring match. And now their whole arc was resolved.
I don't think that seems to be like extra character motivation because as far as they know, Noah's still single. So like one of them could have gone after him.
Yeah, but like they got the kiss in. Like they're trying to humiliate Elle, and they weren't able to, and she ended up coming up on top because she made out with the hottest boy in school.
Yeah, but does that give her all the social clout? Also, like I'm gonna say a nitpicky thing about the OMGs that does not have any factor on the enjoyment of the movie, but it bothered me that on screen they were never in order. Because they're called the OMGs because their first initials spell OMG, but then every time they're introduced, they cut to them to their like single shots, and they just weren't sitting in and OMG were not sitting in order.
Yeah, that's fair. That was frustrating. It was there's like good parts to that movie. It was fun. It was funny. They had some good like little sticky or not sticky. It's more like there's a lot of physical comedy in it, which I thought was enjoyable. Like when she's jumping off, there's like a lot of pratfalls when she jumps out of Noah's bedroom onto the trampoline, flies into the pool. I'm just saying, like that's kind of they're going after like that Disney Channel humor.
Yeah, it was definitely over the top, but it's like to me, like there's like over the top antics, but like some of it wasn't rooted in reality, and it's almost like they wanted to have kind of best of both worlds. Like because the beginning of the movie, it very much convinces us Lee and Elle are kind of high school nobodies. They don't seem to have any other her friends, and then the kissing booth has everyone it has like the whole crowd cheering for them, when we're also led to believe, oh, people would only care if it's Noah. And do they even listen to our person for a kissing booth, or was it just Noah or bust?
I think like everyone was like, everyone wasn't going to get on board with the idea unless Noah was going to be there. But once everyone saw everyone kissing, it was kind of like the excitement. They're like, "Ooh, look at this fun thing that's going on." Also, just like I do have a little bit of criticism for the film. Did some Googling. Kissing booths were a thing in the 1950s. They weren't making out. They were doing like chase little like just like tiny little kisses that you give to your grandma when she's in the hospital or something. I don't know. My grandma's never been in the hospital, but nonetheless, like they got pretty steamy, and it was weird that everyone was watching.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, Kissing Booths. Keeping in mind, Beth Reekles, the author of the books, is our age. I feel like Kissing Booths is something I've never seen. I can't imagine my high school putting that on. To me, it's just something that's been referenced in various movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
And I could see how, as a 15-year-old, someone might find that exciting, but I feel like that's also something where the reality of it would deter people.
Yeah, but like that's going back to my first point, where it's like it's fan fiction, it's self-insert. It doesn't fit into like any sort of reality where you're just like, yeah, this is what would happen. And you just keep like saying things where everything's kind of going well. But when there's drama, it's like that angsty drama that's like very easily resolved. So like the kissing booth in this self-insert fan fiction of a movie works perfectly. That's kind of why it works. It's just fan fiction. It's fan fiction without like anything to base it on.
Yeah, I guess, but I mean, there are also some in some parts of the movie, like when Noah and Elle actually kiss, they're like spinning sparks flying around them.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
that completely goes into like this magical realism era. And it's like the movie just it's like it really wants to make to have like this fantastical element, and is so close to getting there, but is afraid to go over the edge.
Okay, you want to know another one of those scenes where it's just like this is really weird and I don't think real at all?
Okay.
How about when she dives under Noah's bed, and under the bed he has a jar of Vaseline and one porno mag. One porno mag, jar of Vaseline, and that's his stash. And it's kept directly in the center under the bed.
I just want to know what like do teenage boys in 2018 still have porno mags, or are they just using the internet?
Well, everyone's using the internet.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But like, I think the issue is they wanted to throw in like a teen boy joke, but
yeah,
if you do the internet, then a laptop's gonna be on the bed. So like under the bed, the best you could get is like some lotion and some tissues or something. And
yeah,
I get why they did it, but like it is a little silly.
yeah.
And also the sparks flying everywhere was a little much.
Yeah, and so I also just want to talk about. It seems like uh, Elle's relationship with both Noah and Lee are unhealthy, but in different ways.
Yeah.
Like, cause with Noah and Elle, it's very obvious. For the first movie, they spend uh, so much time showing how Noah's violent and manipulative. That's all he is. And then when they get together, they kind of try to play it off as like him treating her like a little sister, except it doesn't seem like he likes her as a person at all. Up until that point. And so it's just it's just a very weak base for a relationship when it seems like the only thing they have in common is they find each other attractive.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like it's high school.
Yeah, but I mean,
If the movie was a one-off where where Noah goes to college, it would have made more sense. But the fact that they carry it on through 3 movies, you're just like, oh my god, like I want you guys to break up. Oh, you both are awful, and I hate you guys around the other one.
yeah, I mean, there's like it feels like their relationship has no nuance. Like I can't name a single thing like they do that feels special to their relationship.
Well, the issue is that if they're together, it's either going to be drama, some like very sparse talking, or a montage of them together. In the first movie, the first and second movie, if it wasn't involving drama, the only times they were together is like montages.
Yeah.
Um Also, so in the first movie, when she cuts, I forget how she cuts her face, and then Lee is like, "Did you hit her?" The issue is that it seemed very believable that
Yeah.
he would hit her, and like I think the movie was trying to play that off as ridiculous, but you're like, I kind of get why there's the question. And it's like, why are you dating this? Like, I get what you're saying, but also I don't think morals kind of like decide a. I've seen plenty of good movies about dysfunctional couples.
Yeah, and the thing is the movies don't it's like they almost acknowledge how dysfunctional it is and toxic, but it doesn't want, but it just kind of makes a right turn at the last moment. Like they establish Noah's violence, but just play it off. In the second movie, they make a big deal of he has a friend Chloe that Elle thinks he's having an affair with, but it turns out she's just a friend. They still blow off that like they're just keeping secrets from each other and not telling everyone. And then like when with her decision to Harvard, he very much makes it seem like oh, if we're gonna stay together, you have to go to Harvard, and just last second kind of feels concerned about it, but it's like yeah, but it's like especially considering that this is targeted towards teenage girls, like it really shouldn't be portrayed as a fantasy.
Yeah, but like fantasies can be good even though they're bad inherently.
Yeah, but it's one thing to make a bad fantasy if there's consequences to it, but like there's also no self realization on either their parts except for L at the very end of the third movie when she just they just throw in game design. Like she's so after like no acknowledgement about being interested in game design or anything artistic, she got into USC art school, which is very competitive, and just has a job right out of college.
Also, they can movies figure out how to portray video games in like not the cringiest fucking way ever, where they're just like rapidly hitting buttons and they're like holding the controller like this and they go like punch punch kick while they're playing. It's just like every single time I watch a movie where they 80% of the time it's just kind of you're like, you never played video games before, did you? Why are you acting this out so aggressively? Just you chill.
See, but that I think like that goes to like the style that I mentioned, like how they cut it, where it's just being fast paced and loud. Like it draws attention and gets the point across quick. But speaking of relationships, Elle and Lee's friendship is also just very codependent and unhealthy at times. Like starting with their rules. So the full list of rules is incomplete because all online resources are just whatever they show in the movie.
Yeah.
But it's like going through the list. Some of the rules are just stuff that's unique to their friendship, like their rules 7. No matter how mad you are at your best friend, you have to forgive them, and if they give you ice cream. Some are like solid life lessons that's like if you can't tell your best friend what you're doing, you probably shouldn't be doing it. And then some are just like weird stuff to tell to like have an established rule with your best friend. Like it feels weird they have an actual rule that they write down and like memorize to just be happy for each other.
Also, the going to college at the same, going to the school at the same. They made that rule when they were 7.
Yeah, and that's like something. The fact that that like Lee's so keen on it that L applying to a different school gets him upset. Just shows like how healthy I'm sorry, unhealthy the relationship is, and like how it feels like, especially Lee treats it as something that's very fragile that he's insecure about. Because I mean, in the first movie, when he finds out that Elle and Noah are seeing each other, he gets upset and goes on this thing of like, you were the only thing I had that he didn't, and it's like that's very possessive for a friend. And
Well, I mean, there must have been like a lot of shit like that going on in life.
oh yeah, but I mean also the fact that they had Rule 9, relatives of your best friend are off limits. That feels very targeted at Elle, specifically to Noah. Unless Elle has some really hot cousin,
She's got a younger brother. I mean,
yeah, who's like 10.
I don't know. He could turn out to be a little pervy. He's always playing DDR at the pier.
Like Elle sat down one day. Is just like, you're not allowed to hit on my 10-year-old brother. I mean that's also a rule where if you have to say it under those circumstances, you probably shouldn't be friends.
Yeah.
That's a thing throughout the series where it's like their friendship just always seems on the verge of breaking up over things that like most people go through with friendships, and then they just go through the same problems of just not communicating with each other. So it's like they do not. I think the series would be better if they learn different lessons each movie, but then every movie the lesson is like oh, Elle really loves Noah. Your friendship will tolerate it.
Yeah. Did they need the kissing booth in the second movie?
It's like it comes in at the end because they still have to plan for it and everything, and that's when Lee and Rachel get back together, and when Marco and Elle have a conversation of them feeling things for each other, which also with the second movie, she should have gone with Marco.
She should have gone with Marco.
Because at that point, so Marco kind of emulates this trope that's common in a lot of romance movies of like, I forget exactly what it's called, but let's just call him the perfect guy. That's the person that seems absolutely perfect for a protagonist. For a protagonist, checks all the boxes, and but what that trope is supposed to do is highlight all the nuanced things that the other person brings to the relationship and helps make that happy. Except they give none of that for Noah and Lee, Noah and Elle. they give no reason why Elle would actually be happy with Noah, and they show her just being super happy with Marco.
Yeah. You got a montage. You get the happy montages where they're like, you get the sneaking around montage in the first movie, and then you get the Boston montage and the opening montage in the second movie. And that's the only time that they're happy together. Everything else is like very drama filled.
Oh yeah, it's almost like their relationship was put under a reverse Eternal Sunshine machine, where they just suddenly woke up in a happy 3 month relationship and don't have to talk about anything about each other ever.
Yeah, but they did Marco's. Okay, just to go into some of the second plot, Marco, for what was that, like 1 or 2 months, trained nonstop with Elle to have her win $50,000 that she did not share with him. So she could go to school with her boyfriend that he wants to be. Dude, they did Marco so dirty. Like, man, he could have used that $25,000 to buy another guitar. Like, dude, that guy deserved the money. Andy deserved the girl. And
yeah, the guitar that he could just whip out at any moment. Yeah, it was like his back pocket was Hermione's bag from Harry Potter. Because there's a scene where like they spent a day together. He was walking around without it. Then they're sitting on a beach. He suddenly pulls it out, and it's like, where did it come from? Did you plant it in the sand before, just for that moment?
No, actually, they show it when he shows up for practice the next day. He has his guitar with him. So I think he just had it there. It just kind of like wasn't included in the shot.
He just asked the arcade employees, is just like, hey, watch this, keep it behind the counter for me.
They're like, you're the MVP, Marco. You're the MVP.
I mean, honestly, like, I'm sure it's one of those workplaces where someone comes in enough and you know them, you're just like, sure.
Yeah. What do you think? Okay, so third movie, the drama like was a little weird.
Yeah, the third movie felt even more all over the place. Like, it seems like there's no real reason for Marco to be there except extra drama. Like, he's still trying to get with Elle, even though she rejected him. It seems like they're trying to just retroactively make him look like a worse person to justify the second movie.
I don't even think he looked that bad in this third movie. He's like doing nice things for Elle. I don't know. I just like it kind of why are they dating? Why are you going to Harvard for the weird physically aggressive dude? I forgot about the scene in the first movie where he just pounds the car and he's like, get in the car.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the thing. He was very Noah was just super manipulative, and I think for the third movie, it's almost like they tried to make Marco what Noah was. He was nice to Alba. It turns out it was all to try and win her back, and then he punches Noah, and Noah, because he's grown, doesn't punch back, which is kind of the most character development in the series. And
honestly, I think Marco had character development because, like, after getting dicked around and losing $25,000 in the last film, now he's pissed off and ready to punch people. Like, that is a clear cause and effect of growth.
Growth in the wrong direction.
Look, I'm saying standing up for yourself is growth. And Marco finally learned how to see. He should have just, you know, I can't hate on Marco even for a second. That boy is a saint.
Oh, I also think that goes into something where from the first movie, it feels like one of the things how they're it's almost like they're avoiding commentary with is the idea of guys and girls being friends, because I don't think the movie's aware that they're addressing that topic because it's kind of a lot of it is saying, yeah, guys and girls can be friends under very specific circumstances, and outside that, they really want to hook up. Like with Elle and Lee, it's like, oh yeah, guys and girls can be friends as long as they have 35 commandments that they strictly follow. And then with Marco in the third movie, it's like, oh yeah, if a guy's trying to be friends with you under any other conditions, he's really trying to sleep with you. And again, keeping in mind, this is intended for teenage girls. That just goes into you're not trying to form healthy relationships. You're trying like base it on these kind of archaic guidelines that are better replaced with people just communicating with each other.
Yeah, although I am happy that they never even once dipped their toe in the pond of Lee and Elle being together. Like, I understand your argument about the rules and like the morals of showing teenage girls this and kind of like what it's arguing. To be fair, though, not even for a second did they dip any part of this movie into the pond of like, oh, we're going to have a lovers triangle with Elle, Noah, and Lee.
Oh, okay. They
stuck
never
to
did
it. They
never
it.
did that, but it's almost like with the way Lee acts sometimes, it's like they got as close to the line without crossing it. Because especially with his speech of like, you were the only thing I had that Noah didn't. The fact that whenever in the second movie it was him, Elle, and Rachel was the third wheel. Like the first scene they're together is he picks up Elle for school, then they go pick up Rachel, and Rachel's waiting for Elle to get out of the front seat because that's where she should go. And then she just sits in the back seat while Elle and Lee share some inside joke or something.
Okay, look, I'm just going to come out and say it. If you expect to sit in the front seat just because you're dating someone, I don't think that's a rule. I think that like you keep that in order, especially in a convertible. You just hop over the side. She should have just sat in the back seat without making such a big deal about it.
I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of Lee prioritizing Elle over her, as which like just comes ahead at the Halloween party with the costumes.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because basically the moment where Rachel gets really pissed, the three of them were going to go together as s'mores, but then Elle and Lee decide they're going to go as Ghostbusters instead. So, and they just do not tell Rachel at all. So they show up in Ghostbusters costume and she's dressed as a marshmallow.
It works. It still works.
It still works, but she wasn't in on it.
All right, we should move on to the...
It's coming time for our concessions. This is where I say 3 things I liked about the movie and Chris gives 3 things that could have been better.
Do you want to start or should I?
I'll start. So first, like there was a sequence in the third movie where Elle was just going through the beach house, going through memories. I thought that was shot great. Like they really used the imagery that there. It was a lot of creative editing and. For a series that overuse voiceover a lot, the voiceover seemed appropriate. So I really like that sequence.
The plot is all over the place. They could have cut a few plots per movie and everything would have been like better. The movie wouldn't be that different. It just would have been a little more focused on what's going on and they could have gone into stuff a little deeper.
Yeah.
I think this kind of 1 and 2 for me go along together. This is the same point, really. The second and third movies should have been 90 minutes. Breaking 2 hours for a movie called Kissing Booth 2 and Kissing Booth 3 It's too long. I just can't keep up caring about these people at all.
Yeah, that was weird because generally romantic comedies, especially high school romantic comedies, are genres where you kind of want to keep it to 90 minutes because that's kind of the sweet spot of how long people follow along with this. Especially as mentioned before, it's cut together very fast paced, as if they expect the audience to not have a long attention span. The second thing I thought was, well, Lee and Elle's chemistry throughout the series, like at uh, at all times they were very believable as lifelong friends.
Okay, I'm sorry. Doesn't it seem like they kind of wrote Lee as like the gay best friend and then they just made him straight?
I mean, it's funny you say that because like one of the differences uh, between the movies and the book, as I mentioned before, in the book, Lee and Elle were more popular. Lee was on the football team at some
Wait,
point.
what?
Yeah, so yeah, so like in the second movie, in the second book, one of the conflicts is actually Elle feels left out because Lee's making time for the football team and Rachel, and she becomes bottom priority.
I kind of would have liked that a little bit more. I think that would have been like a more interesting thing because she kind of just lives her life like everything revolves around her. So it would have been nice to see her just try and deal with that.
Yeah, like I mean, reading the differences makes me curious about the book because watching it, I did feel like, oh, the book, because like, well, a lot of writers is when developing stuff, they'll start with all the cliches and tropes, and then build off of that to give the characters depth and nuance. And it felt like the movies kind of stripped a lot of that nuance. But the last thing I really liked, any scene that was just Elle and Mrs. Flynn, uh, because it really showed what their relationship should have been and what it probably was in the book. Because basically Mrs. Flynn and Elle's mom were best friends, and after Elle's mom died, you get the feeling she became her surrogate mother, but they don't really explore that relationship ships in the films except for 2 or 3 scenes. But those scenes were just like really meaningful conversations that fleshed out their relationship a bit.
Yeah. Um, all the characters are pretty unlikable, and the plot revolves around motivations and situations that don't really make sense. In the sense that, like, a single 1 minute conversation could have cut out like 50% of the plot in all three of those movies. Just one, like, hey, are you cheating on me? And he's like, nah, this whole long distance relationship is just hard. Boom. I cut out half of Kissing Booth too. Also, and this is just honorable mention, they did my boy Marco real dirty. They did him so dirty. He should have been in the first movie, and it should have ended with Elle being like, "Oh, no, I'm not dealing with Noah. Like, there's just no wins for it. I'm just gonna date Marco because looks like he could bench press me."
Yeah, like the same way Netflix now has a spin-off series for All the Boys to Love Before for a different character, they should do a spin-off movie or something for Margot.
All right, we're running out of time here, Belton.
Yep.
So we're getting to our closing statements. My closing statement. Kissing Booth, it's a solid movie. Like it's a fun movie. When you go to it, you're here to watch a teen rom-com coming of age story, and that's what you get. It's fun. It's a fun little silly story. You'll enjoy watching it. You'll laugh at it, you'll laugh with it, and you'll get to experience the whimsy of high school love.
All right. My closing statement. This series simply offers nothing new. It's a franchise that feels obsessed with tropes without adding nuance or depth to its characters. if you're in the mood for a fun, lighthearted high school rom-com, there are many better options to go with than these movies. Want a classic? Watch Mean Girls. Want something more recent? There's Love, Simon and Crush, both on Hulu, I believe.
You could also do what's the one where Anne Hathaway becomes a princess? The Princess Diaries. That
Diaries,
movie
yeah.
fucking rocks. I watched that recently for the first time.
Just a lot of better stuff out
You
there.
could watch Grown Up. Wait, no. What's the one they shot over 13 years? I'm always blank.
Oh, Boyhood.
Boyhood. That's a great fucking movie.
Yeah. So, anyways, this has been Film versus Movie. I'm Belton DeLaine-Facey.
I'm Chris Shurr, and we'll be back in a couple weeks.